Hi, I'm Parker Miley.
And I'm Tim Benjamin.
And this is the Rage Podcast, where today we're going to go back to the roots of the Rage Podcast of destroying current events.
Yes.
And
current event is safe.
Yes. But man, do we have a lot of things to choose from.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, the thing we had a tough time with is trying to narrow it down to only 17 different things we wanted to destroy.
It was just, there's just a lot going on, and we'll just start.
Yeah.
There's so much bad things happening.
Yes.
Well, some of them are good. We'll use that one last.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk a little bit about
the one good thing that's going on. We'll end with that. Go ahead.
Depends on who's watching the video if you want it to be good though.
Yeah.
But let's look at the U.S. itself. Okay.
All right.
We have recognized something within, I'd say, the last month, that our government has kind of lost all couth, as a good way of saying that. On the Senate floor, cuss words are flying. We're kind of just being banshees. No one's taking anything civilly, or those whole core principles of a civil debate has kind of gone out the window, I would say.
And that problem isn't going to do nothing but get worse while we're trying to have a Supreme Court hearing.
Yeah.
To confirm a new justice. It's going to be ugly, If the last two hearings are any indication, it's going to be dumb.
Oh, yeah.
And Joe Biden is already...
And it should take... if the time frame continues to progress the way it is, I'm pretty sure this one will take maybe 2 years to get through.
That's a pretty conservative estimate, yeah. No, and the thing is why in the world, besides political points, that Biden would go ahead and announce the race and gender of the person, but not... Yeah, he's going to pick any of the qualifications.
The only qualifications were, according to the president, were you have to be black and be a woman.
Yeah.
So,
but this is not an affirmative act because you picked. Don't confuse this. I don't know why. There is no need to give preferential treatment.
Yeah.
Anybody can be qualified for this job who's qualified. I don't understand why we have to announce ahead of time. When. I'm trying to imagine how this would go if I went to the board and said, I want to hire a student intern. He's got to be a white male. Is that all right with you guys? There's no scenario where that's okay.
Yeah.
That's insane. Insane. It's insulting. And the problem is, the person that he ends up appointing, unfortunately, is going to have that cloud hanging over them forever.
Yeah.
For as long as their tenure on the Supreme Court is. They're going to say, well, you may have all these things you've accomplished in your career and all these things that went on, but we know why you got here.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. Because I'm sure the person that will be picked will be somebody who's qualified and all these things, but...
But you're only recognized as being qualified by...
Yeah. And on the other flip side of that, okay, well then why doesn't Joe Biden appoint Condoleezza Rice? Because we know that ain't going to happen either. She may have the prerequisite that he's looking for, but she's also a conservative and an extremely intelligent woman. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
There's that. But then we also have we're here in America. I always like to think when we compare to like global news, it can't ever get too bad. You have to really screw something up for our lives to become very. When looking at some Middle Eastern countries and all those things, someone has to really screw up to get that bad a level, okay?
Yeah.
So, again, I'm recognizing the fact that I still have a pretty good life.
Yeah,
okay?
It's a lot of privilege you're seeing going on here today. We're complaining about things like this. That's true.
Yes. Yeah. So, don't get me wrong about those things, but, I'm still an American, and we should address some problems that we see.
Yeah. That's and we shouldn't have to embarrass ourselves every time something happens.
Yes. So Joe Biden has received, I was listening to the news this week, the lowest approval rating right now than any other president, I think, is what the statistic was. It was
down
in the
30%.
20% or something.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And so, we have that.
That's as of the time of recording this video. By the time we get it uploaded, it might be even lower.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, and those statistics change like that. So, we have that problem. We have... all the hate and division still happening in the U.S. I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon.
And the reason it's not going to go away is because we keep misinterpreting where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Let's look at people by the content of their characters. It seems to me somebody said something about that at one point, and I feel like if we would go and just do it that way and respect each other and say, look, you can actually disagree with me and still not be an evil person, but We're not there. We are not there.
You know, you know Jordan Peterson?
I do know Jordan Peterson.
I love listening to that guy talk because he's all about logic.
Yeah.
He uses a lot, all fact based. Okay, and he was saying, he was going off, well, and it goes about like what makes someone offended. And he was like, So he was saying, well, why should I call someone by this pronoun or by this name or whatever they want to be called by? When I don't recognize that happening like that. Well, the person who he was talking to was like, where do you get off saying this? So she was like, it just was one big offensive mess because this lady was trying to offend Jordan Peterson. Peterson was trying to offend whatever the person wants to be called by person, and all these things. It was just a big mess of offensiveness, and everyone's getting mad.
At the end of it, they didn't accomplish anything.
No, they didn't.
I was just going out on a limb on that one, yeah.
But I mean, it was just like, okay.
And also, just so you know, arguing with Jordan Peterson is like running on a treadmill. You're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. But man, so we have that, and it's just like I think what we need so much of right now is just a breath.
Yes.
Just a deep. Everyone
deep
breathe. Let's reflect on what the heck is going on out in society.
Yeah,
it's just,
get some perspective.
Yeah.
And understand that, as Parker clearly said a moment ago, that things could be a whole lot worse. But at the same time, there are some times that we as Christians and we as church people need to stand up and say, this isn't right. What's going on here, or what you're saying, or the position you're taking on this issue is not right. But the important thing in that, though, is to understand, and this is where I think everyone gets screwed up. I think the first part of that, what I said, everybody needs to make a stand, I think most people get that. Okay, I think most people are there. I think the place we run into trouble with that is we don't know the difference between things we really need to make a hard stand about and other things we ought to ignore. Sometimes we even get those things backwards. Things that we should have a really clear stand about, to stand up for our children and our communities. We kind of let that stuff go, and other stuff that, honestly, doesn't matter to anybody. Yeah. Like this Jordan Peterson argument. We get so off in the weeds on that we end up spinning our wheels and wasting our time. And by the time we get to the end of the debate, we're just tired. We haven't decided anything because what we were arguing over in the first place didn't really matter. And I feel like by not being selective in the stands that we take, and when we make a stand on absolutely everything and nothing at the same time, again, we're back to running on the treadmill. I guess that was my analogy earlier. We're doing a lot of work and not getting anywhere.
But that's here. But I also want to cover just a couple more world events.
Yeah, please.
All right. So let's look at how I mentioned the Middle East, or some of those other countries that are going to be way less fortunate than what I've been blessed with where I live. We have Russia planning on invading Ukraine. Okay, and let's be honest about all of the Middle East. No one cares about anything over there. I mean, unless, like politically, no one cares. No one really cares. I mean, obviously we have sympathy for some of the people and some of the trials that they
innocent
suffer
people
from.
who are in the way, but some of those conflicts are thousands of years old.
Yeah, so I mean, but like it just happens, okay? And that's nothing to ever downgrade by any means. But what we have to recognize is Russia, so Russia's going to invade Ukraine. And how did this happen? How did the Soviet Union grow into being so vast? They had the spread of communism throughout almost all of the Middle East, close or near to, and it's because they came in. They had all their forces. They said, "Here's this new way of doing life, and see how incredible it will make your entire economy and all these things." Yada yada yada, and boom, they're all taking over all these other countries. What they don't realize is that those people have pride in where they live. People of Ukraine have pride. Yeah,
as well they should.
Have pride of being a part of Ukraine. How it may be, a mess or whatever, they still have pride in being Ukraine. So
that's part of the where Russia started. Way back when this whole thing started. Is they wanted to be able to. They thought try to raise everybody's standard of living, but communism does not do that. All communism does is push a couple people up to the top, make them super rich, while keeping everybody else here. And that's what they found. And the only way to continue to support communism is to expand. That's why they want to take Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly.
So they want to steal from that country to continue to bolster their own. And can't do that.
And now, if you know anything about the Middle East, when situations like this happen, where do their eyes always turn to?
Yeah, when they need help.
The U.S. I mean, the U.S. spends... I don't even think I can say millions, billions of dollars.
Let's say lots
of money on protecting those little nations in the Middle East and around Russia and all those areas. And while that's happening, we're over here in America where our government is acting like we're trying to be, comedians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. We want to go defend that sovereign border of Ukraine, which again we can debate whether or not we should. There's arguments on both sides, and they're both good. However, our southern border in this country, we don't do nothing for.
Yeah.
We sent 8,500 troops over to be a part of that conflict over there. How many troops have we sent down to the southern border with Mexico? You know how many troops we have? 0. No troops down there. So I don't understand why we're going to worry about that border for all the reasons Parker just outlined.
Yeah.
But not worry about our own. I mean, that's the plank and the speck Jesus talked about. We're worried about the plank in somebody else's eye, or the speck in somebody else's eye, while not worrying about the plank in our own. And I feel like, why would we want to defend the sovereignty of another nation when we're not necessarily defending our own? And I'm not talking about, illegal immigration as it goes. I think anything in this world that will stop human trafficking is not a bridge too far, because that is the most evil thing that has ever been, ever. And I think that enforcing our southern border would stop a lot of the drugs pouring across and a lot of the human trafficking that's happening, because to me that's the most evil thing that's ever been invented by anybody.
So, yeah. So there's just all that whole mess. And what I hope we understand is I may come off sounding I'm trying to complain. Which is acceptable to see at first.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But I do want to note that take this and try to figure out what on earth are you going to do about it. I hate when someone says, well, what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? Well, by spewing what you have to say is step one.
Yeah, free speech.
And listening to what the other people have to say as well. Opening by pushing out your beliefs or what you stand for, what you believe in, you also have to open yourself up to criticism. That's a part of doing it. By getting up there. Tim knows this entirely.
Yeah.
By doing his news articles, by doing sermons, by doing rages. He knows, but when you open yourself up to spew your information in whatever you have to say.
No matter what your opinion is on anything, somebody's not going to agree with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So but take that, and not all criticism's bad. Some is meant to be refining, and that's the
and much of it
life.
is depending on how you take it, what you do with it. Even if it's somebody coming from a malicious source, it can still be helpful.
So understand that concept there. Now let's look at something that's going on in Canada.
Okay.
There is it was 50,000?
Yeah, it was a bunch of truckers.
But tons. Not bunches doesn't even explain it well enough.
Yeah, I saw the picture. It was a traffic jam.
It is. There is a convoy of semi-truckers in Canada that are heading to the capital of Canada to protest the vaccine mandates,
right?
saying, because Canada obviously we got to recognize, we think, their way of living's the same as the U.S. Some people have that connotation, but they have a completely different form of government than us. It's very old school, okay, in the sense that. So Canada's been really hard on COVID, and they've been doing all these things.
Yeah, their COVID crackdown's been far worse than ours.
Yeah, literally cops coming in saying that you have too many cars in your
arresting pastors and things like that.
And all these things. So that happens. That's going on. And one of their biggest pushes was to go into a grocery store, you had to have a vaccine. And obviously now that means next everyone needs to have the vaccine if you want to get any food. So truck drivers are taking a stand against that and, going to protest at the capital of Canada. They're taking a stand on something that I would say is a worthy or valuable cause. Right? And if we look at what Pastor Tim's sermon was about a little bit, it was taking a stand for something that is obviously not useless, not taking a stand on, talking about there's so many things that we could take a stand on. Take a stand on something that is worth your time.
Yeah.
Or that is going to...
And that's what these truckers are protesting is the idea they're required to get a vaccine, yet they spend the vast majority of their time they spend alone in the cab of a truck. So yeah, they're going to interact with some people, but not like really any other job. And so for them to have to be vaccinated, especially when the vaccine, and look, I'm pro-vax. I am vaccinated and I'm boosted, and so I think it was an important choice for me to do that. At the same time, though, I don't know with some of the efficacy questions that should have been required of everybody. It's a personal decision, and there is a time for. I mean, this is another current event we get into. There are times that vaccines should be required, like polio, but when you get the polio shot, you never got polio.
Yeah.
For some reason, though, you get the COVID shot, you still get COVID.
You were questioning when you're receiving the polio vaccine. I was like, is this going to stop me from getting polio?
Yeah.
You know, like, no one had that question in their mind.
Right.
So obviously, you have that whole predicament going on there.
That's probably part of the truckers in Canada question as well, is, people are still getting it even if they're vaccinated. And we can say, well, it's not as bad, and that's probably true. But it's a tough question to say that people should be required to get this particular vaccine. So they're making a stand. They obviously don't agree with it, and so they're going to make a stand. I say good for them. If that's the way they feel, then that's what they should. They're making a stand based on their beliefs, and I think that's very important.
So what's important to recognize, as we've been talking about all these things going on, is make a stand.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to address your opinion on an issue. But also be knowledgeable enough to recognize that comes with criticism.
Yes. The making a stand has to be coupled with listening. Even if what you're listening to is something you don't agree with, which is going to happen, you still have to listen. But at the same time, you should be also listened to, I guess, is what we should say.
Yes.
So I think a lot of these conflicts, I can't say they would go away, but I think they would be better understood and people would spend more time looking at them if people were listening to each other instead of all this talking going on.
They wouldn't be such a lot of the stuff right now is nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just utter nonsense.
Yeah. So you've got people out there who are spewing all kind of stuff, and then you got other people out there who are just like, can I just be left alone? I'm tired, and I got more important things than this going on, which is true of everybody, by the way. And I'm not ready to do this. So yes, don't be afraid to go make your stand. If you have strong feelings about something, and you feel like you need to make a stand, absolutely, by all means do that. But just don't allow that to start alienating your friends and bleeding over into things in your life that are going to cause other problems. If it's important, then make it important. Let it be important. But don't let it overtake your entire life to the point that now you can't be friends with somebody because your opinion on the vaccine is different, or your opinion on any of these other issues we've talked about is different from somebody else's. If you don't agree with us, that's fine. But at the end of the day, we are allowing people to jettison themselves from other people's lives because we don't agree with them, therefore we can't be in a relationship anymore, and that should never happen.
Tim said a very good line there. He said, if it's important, make it important. And I mean, that's kind of where we a lot of us miss the whole
we have things that are important that we don't make important, or we're making stuff important that's not important.
Exactly.
And that's where we're into problems.
So that's some wisdom right there. Yeah. But take that away from all the stuff that we talked about. It was almost like Parker and Tim news briefing today is what we did. But do note that life's still good.
It is
obviously, good. And don't get too worried about we're not gonna say don't get too worried, but we got the snowmageddon coming and all those things. So
who knows? Maybe a day when we all get snowed
maybe
in
life
might be
won't be too good. Okay?
Yeah.
So enjoy up these last couple days or so. And recognize
if the world ends during snowmageddon that's coming up here,
So I tell you, enjoy these next 2 days because you're not going to the rest of the week.
Yeah. You're going to be buried in an igloo somewhere after that. But you know what? Don't be afraid to look at the lighter side of life.
Yeah.
Yes, there are things that are important that we need to make important, but at the same time, not all of it is that way.
Yeah, not all of it's something to get so worked up over.
All right. Well, you guys all be safe out there. Stay warm. Wear your hat. Wash your hands. And
be careful shoveling snow.
Yes, be careful. Yes, that's exactly right. And don't be afraid to reach out for help from your neighbor or something if you need it during the next couple days, at least here in Ohio. And we don't know where all you viewers are from, but as the snow gets deeper, that's when we're going to need each other. So everybody hang in there, be careful, and God willing, we'll see you all next week.
Yeah.